Wife cheated. I am so angry I am scared of myself. So I am a bit lost. Been about 2 weeks since I found out. I've been suspicious for a while. Lots of red flags but nothing definite. I decided to confront her and her reaction. Irrational anger. How can I accuse her of something like that? She would never cheat. Made me sure. I snooped on her phone and computer but couldn't find anything. So I bought some small cameras and placed them around the house. Then I went to visit some friends over the weekend. I grew up in Norway, close to the Swedish border. I met my wife in Sweden. I was 20, she was 21, and she had a 3-year-old kid when we met. We hit it off, and I have been that kid's dad for the last 11 years. I love that guy. I consider him my son. We have been married for 6 years. Not that it matters. Long story short, I went home early when I knew she wouldn't be there and watched the footage. Sure enough, there she was doing adult stuff with another guy. I recognized him as a work colleague, Theodore. We were friendly with him and his wife. I used to believe seeing red was just a figure of speech, but I was seeing red. I have never been that angry. I am actually a very mellow guy. I never really get angry, but I just lost it. I hit the walls. I kicked the bedroom door so hard it flew off its hinges and smashed the glass table we had in a living room. I bit the inside of my cheek. I didn't even notice, but when I screamed, I sprayed the wall and floor with blood. At some point, I managed to hit my head pretty hard, and that snapped me out of it. I looked at the carnage, and I knew I just had to get out of there. Had my wife walked in at that point, I think I would be in jail. In the best case scenario for domestic violence, and in the worst case for murder. I quickly packed a suitcase with essentials and my laptop. I work with simulation and modeling, and my computer is custom, and I need that to do my job. I sent a copy of the video to Theodore's wife. I didn't really write anything, the message, apart from "your husband is cheating with my wife." I met my son just outside our apartment complex. I gave him a hug, told him I would always love him, but that his mother was cheating on me, so I had to leave. I really regret telling him he shouldn't be burdened with that, but I wasn't really myself at the time, and it just came out of me. I went to the border. I wanted to go see my family in Norway, but they didn't want to let me cross due to COVID. I've been renting a cheap Airbnb. I'm working, but I'm like a zombie. I haven't talked to my wife. The only person I have responded to is my son. He's been asking me questions. I've been honest with him as far as possible that I don't know what is going to happen next, apart from divorce. I've been trying to find a good lawyer. I've received hundreds of messages from my wife and her part of the family. I haven't responded to any of it. My parents are the only ones that know in my side, as far as I know. I don't want to talk to my friends because they are friends with my wife as well, so I don't really have good support at the moment. I'm afraid that if I talk to her or see her again, I will lose it and do something I can't take back. I also don't want to lose contact with my son, but I have no idea where to even start. I am still boiling with rage, and I don't know how to get past that. I need to respond to my wife at some point, but I'm so angry that I don't think I'm capable of being rational. I just wanted to try to write this out and see if that helps. So far, I would say it's made no difference at all. Mini update. I'm doing better. I actually visited a cage fighting club. I should really stress that I do not know how to fight at all. I am not really in great shape. The few times that ended up in a fight in my youth, I've had my ass beaten badly. I talked to them and explained the situation. They were actually really friendly and eager to help. First, they made me work out for 2 hours, and when that didn't take the edge of my anger, they put me in the ring with a very experienced fighter. It was clear he was really gentle with me, and even though I did my best, I didn't even give him a workout. It's pretty clear he let me punch and kick him, but he easily blocked whatever I threw at him. The few times I managed to land a blow with a little bit of force, he was quick to give me a smack back. Since I have no clue what I'm doing, his gentle taps slap me around hilariously. He would always ask if I was okay before proceeding again. He even apologized a few times for hitting me during our little session when he thought he had maybe hit me too hard. Imagine that, apologizing for hitting the opponent in a fight. He clearly didn't see me as an opponent at all. I doubt he would see me as a threat ever. I have a newfound respect for people that know how to fight, and I am determined to learn it. T1 He's guys were their chillest people I have ever met. I want to be as calm as them. My little fight helped a lot. It really took the edge off. I don't have that burning anger. I am still pissed, but now it's manageable. I will go back for training and more beatings. Still, I don't trust myself to meet my wife. I have talked to my son. I told him that no matter what, we would be okay. I consider him and my son no matter what happens between his mother and me. Appreciated. I think you really appreciated that. I have talked to a few common friends and her parents. Apparently, my wife has become sort of unglued. She's been calling and talking to everyone at all hours, day and night. She is apparently confessing everything to almost everyone, and even offering money to anyone that's good put her in touch with me. I was considering only speaking to my wife via a lawyer, but I can't afford that, so I've asked my cousin to act as a go-between. I gave her a few questions to put forward so we see where it goes from there. I plan to contact the app's wife next week as well. Some Redditors strongly suggested that I talk to my wife and tell her that if I can adopt my son, I will consider reconciliation. But I would never do that. I will not use my son as a pawn in anything ever. As things stand now, I would love to adopt him, but only if he asks me to, and only if I am sure it's what he wants and that he isn't influenced or pressured by anyone. I will get through this, I think. I have received so much good advice on here. I feel like I have a plan now to move forwards with. Update 2. I'm sorry, it's been radio silence. I've had my hands full since my last post. I see a lot of questions in my PM messages, so I figured it's easier just to make this update. I started calling my son twice per day after my last post. He would always tell me everything was okay, but I guess it really wasn't. I was focusing on trying to get myself under control. I started going to Icy, that helped some. But what really changed things is when I went to try boxing. The first place I visited was kind of grimy and run down. Still the Five Guys where there seemed to have this amazing camaraderie going on. And I really wanted in on that. I wanted to belong there badly. They all told me I had to talk to the old man. He was the owner of the place. Apparently he decided who could join or not. They all had a lot of respect for him, so I was kind of apprehensive. Let's just say that the old man has an abrasive personality. To begin with, he just listened, but once he started talking, I was quickly getting more and more agitated. There wasn't anything I can really put my finger on. Everything he said was true, and maybe that's what angered me. Or maybe it was the tone? Like every question or sentence was an accusation of sorts. The old man made me feel like I was not good enough to become a member of his club. And I suddenly found myself in a position of arguing with him for him to let me prove that I was worthy. I still haven't figured out if he is just an asshole or some kind of genius. That said, the old man has really affected my life in a very positive way, even though he is very uncomfortable to be around. I am starting to see why people have such respect and admiration for him. The old man has helped me understand why I was so angry and how to think more clearly moving forward. It's a story in itself, but this is already getting long, so back to the main issue. A few days after my post, about 20 minutes after I had talked to my son, he called me back. He was crying and he apologized for lying to me. He lied when he said everything was okay at home. He went on to tell me that my wife was just sitting in front of the TV, staring at it even if he turned it off. He didn't have any food to eat, the house smells, and the only thing he had eaten in the last 2 days was some sandwiches a friend's mother had made for him when he visited. Of course, I immediately rushed home. I could smell the rotten garbage in the hallway even before I got in the door. The house was an absolute filthy mess. It clearly hadn't been cleaned since I left almost a month ago. The floor wore covered in crumpled up sheets of paper, overflowing dirty dishes in the sink. Broken glass on the floor. Rotten garbage smell. Absolutely disgusting. I went to check on my son first. I had picked up a burger for him on the way over. I asked him to stay in this room and eat while I go and talk to his mom. I assured him everything would be okay. I was home. I was going to take care of him. He cried and hugged me for a bit before I went to check on his mother. That hug felt so good. I had missed him so much. I am never leaving him again. My wife sat staring at the screen like my son had described it to me. What he didn't tell me was how terrible she looked. She had lost a terrifying amount of weight. She was just skin and bones. Her eyes were sunk into her head, dark rings, lifeless skin, cracked lips, messy, dirty hair, filthy clothes. I grabbed a chair and set myself down between her and the TV. The smell coming off her was absolutely terrible. There was a bucket on the floor. Later found out it was half full of a week-old vomit. I felt a deep pain for her. I wanted to protect her, help her, make her better. For a while, I completely forgot what she had done. Seeing her like this was really painful for me. I guess in some ways I still love and care for her despite what she has done. That fact kind of terrifies me. Something is wrong with me too, I think. I didn't know what to say to her, to be honest. She was clearly not all there. She actually asked me if I was real. When I said yes, she broke down crying in a way I've never seen anyone cry before. Her crying, or wailing is probably a better word, was so loud it sort of startled me. Without warning, mid-scream, she either fell asleep or passed out. I put my Fitbit on her arm because I don't really know how to take someone's pulse. Her heart rate was varied up and down between 100 to 150, so I figured that's probably not good. I made sure she was in a comfortable position on the sofa, and I wiped the snot of her face before I ran and asked our neighbor for help. They were happy to look after our son while I took her to the hospital. She has been there for 7 days now, I think. I'm a bit blurry on the days TBH. I have visited once, but she got so upset from seeing me that the doctors recommended that I don't visit for now. They have no diagnosis for her yet, and they have no idea of when or even if she will come out of it. I have been focusing on taking care of my son since I have made sure he has regular IC, and he looks like he is doing better now. There is no doubt he has been traumatized by this. I am drowning in guilt for my part in causing him this pain. I have been in contact with a lawyer to try to get custody rights for obvious reasons. I don't know how that will work out. I have also prepared for divorce, but I'm holding off for the time being. It took us several days to clean the house. I decontaminate the fridge with bleach, and still it smelled like rotten food, so I actually had to get a new one. I also found that my wife had taken all my dirty laundry into bed and made a body shape of it. It had some additions to make it look anatomically correct, and it's kind of disturbing TBH. I looked through all her papers that she left all over the house. It's incoherent nonsense for the most part. Some pages has dates and times. I can't understand most of it, apart from some pages that have long lines of sorry written on it. Most pages with text just transition into a wiggly line in the middle of a sentence. I don't know what to do. My anger is completely gone, replaced by sadness of the situation and for the trauma and pain inflicted on my son. I feel bad for my wife, but I also understand why I was angry and how I have changed to deal with the pain. I have left a hug piece of myself behind, and she caused that. I don't know if I have it in me to forgive that. A big part of my personality was being a good husband and provider for a long time. That part of me was mortally wounded by her affair. I left that part of me behind. It was just too painful to keep. It's too early to say anything about where we end up, as for now, all avenues are open. I am still hurting and confused. I will just continue to try to rebuild my self-esteem and my self-image of my masculinity. If my wife comes out of it, I will talk to her and see where I go from there. Right now, I need to focus on my son. I need to make sure he is okay. Sorry it's not anything spectacular like the other stories I have read on here with principled confrontations and epic revenge. I am exhausted and sad. I don't know what to do. It was all so clear-cut in my mind before I came back. Now I just can't see any good ways forwards. Update 3. I have some questions. Maybe you can help me shine some light on this from different angles. If you're going to post in comments just divorce to be, don't bother, I will simply ignore you. I know that in the end, whatever happens is my choice, so I will choose what is right for me and my family, whatever I decide that to be in the future. I haven't been sleeping much and I am a bit dazed, so if I ramble a bit, please bear with me. I really appreciate all the different perspectives you give. It really helps me think things through. The wife is still in the hospital. She is refusing to allow anyone to see her apart from her mother. The only instructions she is given, apart from no visitors, is that no one is to talk to me on her behalf or try to pressure me in any way. She has confessed cheating to just about everybody, but not in any detail. Her calls have been panicked along the line of, I cheated, he is going to leave me. What do I do? So people have been pretty much leaving me alone, unless I have called them to ask for their help or opinion. My wife has written me a letter her mother handed over to me a few days ago. It is long, 32 pages. I will try to summarize the main points here. She apologized for what she's done to me, her son, and us. She says she will sign any paper I put in front of her, no questions asked. Postnup, divorce papers, whatever. She also confesses to a 2-month emotional affair with another man online before the current affair started that turned physical. I didn't know about this at all, so I believe she is being honest. Her confession is very detailed, and she has given me all her login credentials to everything to confirm that she is honest and not hiding anything. She freely admits that she was captivated by the attention and the excitement, but she seems genuinely confused that she allowed any of this to actually transpire. I believe what she has written is the truth. Emails, messages, call logs, etc. backs her story up, and she has also pointed me to a thumb drive hidden in one of her drawers that contained a diary going back almost 10 years. Her diary and her letter seems to be in perfect sync from what I have read so far. She explains that the first EA online was more of a game than anything else, flirting only, no sexting or meetup. It went on until suddenly one day she felt compelled to send this guy a message. She immediately ended it then. She couldn't find the courage to tell me, but according to the diary, she was trying. When the main affair started, she was flattered and given a huge ego boost from this guy giving her attention. He is a very handsome guy, model type, and I have met his wife, and she is absolutely stunning. 10/10 jaw-droppingly beautiful. My wife's ego rush got addictive, it seems. Getting attention from this beautiful guy that was married, such a beautiful woman, gave her a huge boost. She felt like she must be very special to outcompete his beautiful wife for App's attention. She admits she knew what she was doing was wrong, but she also seems genuinely confused that she was unable to stop herself. She hates herself for losing control. If I understand this correctly, the affair only turned physical once the AP started to lose interest in her. She started using sex to keep him interested, to keep him giving her attention. From the diary, the sex seemed to be more of a chore for her. She doesn't seem to enjoy it. She does it just to get more attention, like it's a reward she gives him for that. It's clear she is struggling with guilt, especially in the beginning, but she soon starts to compartmentalize this. But of course we drifted apart, and our relationship suffers while she does this. The affair was physical for 4 weeks, and they kissed and fooled around with intercourse 5 times according to her diary and her confession. This is backed up with her location data and credit card bills for hotels, etc. The rest is history that you already know. Her letter concludes with the following. I don't know who the person was that had the affair, or at least I don't recognize myself doing it. I don't understand how I could so easily abandon my beliefs and my morals and hurt the people in my life that I love more than anything. I don't know why I wasn't able to stop myself. I will not insult you by asking you to understand or forgive me, because I don't deserve understanding or forgiveness. My only hope is that I can be helpful in some way to help you and our son heal. I will do anything you ask of me without question. I will do anything if you think it might help in any way, no matter how big or small. I will live with my mother once I am released from here. I will stay away unless you ask for me. I don't want to remind you with my presence of the pain I have caused both of you. I don't have the words to tell you how sorry I am for what I did, and my greatest wish is that you heal and find someone worthy of your love that you can be happy with. I pray I haven't permanently destroyed your ability to trust and love someone deserving in the future. I will not be with anyone else because I'm clearly not safe to be with. I will seek therapy to try to find, and perhaps one day cure what is wrong with me. But as of today, I don't really know who I am or why I couldn't stop myself from doing these things. I knew what I did was wrong, that I was hurting everyone, myself included, but I did it anyway. I was selfish. I caused all of this, just so I could feel a little better about myself for a brief moment. Once I saw the pain on your face on the camera you left behind in the bedroom, the heartbreaking pain on your face while you were watching the tape with me and the other man. At that moment, I realized how delusional I am and how terrible and evil I had become. I am afraid there is no salvation for me. I will always love you. I wish I could undo it all, take it all back, but I can't. I'm sorry. I ugly cried reading it. and I really don't know what to do. I've been up all night reading, and I am emotionally drained, confused, and unsure of everything. I watched the video again, and I also watched the video of me going insane. I don't remember a lot of what happened that is on the video. It is very painful to watch my wife's actions, but I have been looking at it over and over again. Why can't I stop looking at it? It is also very disturbing to watch myself go crazy, and I can't stop doing that either. I keep going back and watching it from start to the end over and over again. I try to put it away, but an hour or so later I find myself back watching it all over again. It's hurting me, so I don't understand why I do it. Also, is what she's saying even possible, that a person can be pulled into an affair where behavior becomes compulsive like she describes it, where it's not really a free choice anymore? Maybe a WW on here could share some insight? I also clearly see from her diaries that she probably developed a depression about 3 years ago after her favorite aunt died. Her perspective on life becomes very dark after this. Almost hopeless, I would say. I've read other stories where depression seems to cause drastic personality changes and be triggers for affairs. Any insight would be appreciated on this. She clearly never loved any of these men. She loved the ego boost, the increased self-esteem, the rush she felt from them seemingly telling her the right things. On D-Day, she totally cut her AP out of her life and called his wife and told her about the affair. I know this because the AP's wife told me when I met her. She actually asked me if we could have a revenge affair. She was very focused on this, getting revenge. Like, that would help anything? But beauty aside, she is probably the most annoying woman I've ever met. Talking to her was like nails on a chalkboard. Needless to say, we will not be having an affair, and we will never ever meet in person again. I don't know what to do now. I can't sleep. I can't really think, so I could really use some help. Update 4. Wife cheated. I am so angry. I am scared of myself. I am very grateful to everybody on this forum. I have received a lot of help to better navigate this disaster. I am okay now. I feel I am back in control of things. I've been trying to get to see my wife. She refuses still, and her mother still acts as a go-between. I tried to call her out on her promise in her letter to me that she would do anything if I thought it would help in any way. So her mother relayed the message that I believed us talking would help. I also asked her to see her doctor together to try to help me understand. The doctor will not tell me anything without her present. I will try to be patient. In summary, I have been diagnosed with PTSD, and my wife has been diagnosed with persistent depression and some bipolar disorder. She has a chemical imbalance in her brain, and they are trying out different medications for her. Many of you were right, her condition made her vulnerable, then a predator crossed her path, and here we are. Her AP has been cheating consistently on his wife for their entire relationship with multiple women in parallel most of the time. They are divorcing. The AP has been beaten up a bit, not badly from what I have heard. App's wife called the husbands of most of the women he has had affairs with. I have a friend staying with me most days. He keeps me focused. And I am going camping with my son this weekend. I was trying to confirm if the descriptions in her diary were correct, that she considered the sex as a chore. And watching her disconnected behavior and facial expressions in the video, she is basically just waiting for it to be over. I have not decided what to do, but I have deleted the video of her and of me going crazy. It was just causing me pain, and I just couldn't put it away. One part of me is screaming at me to just walk away, to run and find someone else. What if she cheats again? How can I trust her? Can I get rid of the movie running on a loop in my mind? Will I divorce her in X years because I can't get past this? Etc., etc., etc. I struggle a lot with these types of questions. But divorce would definitely mean that I lose some daily contact with my son, and there is no doubt that he needs me, at least for now. He is terrified of being abandoned, not that strange considering recent events. I think if I leave his mother now, it would make things worse for him. If I can leave her like she is now, what's preventing me from leaving him? He will probably look at it like that. The two of us have started going to the boxing gym together, and we are bonded stronger than ever. Being there for my son is giving me tremendous strength and motivation to face this with an open mind. He is leaning heavily on me at the moment, so even if I decided to divorce, I'm not sure if I could actually go through with it in the short term. He has begged me not to leave him again. The 2 weeks I was away was very traumatizing for him, and I'm not exposing him to that again. There is no telling how long it will take for his mother to stabilize enough to be a good parent for him again. If I divorce now, maybe she'd never recover. Even if I divorce her, I will still have the pain, I will still have the scars, I will bring that into any new relationship. I think that would greatly reduce the chances of such relationships being successful. Isn't it just as well that I am with her while I try to heal? At least she will know why I am acting like this and understand why I am struggling. If I leave her, what is really waiting for me out there? Single women my age seem to be either divorced for good reasons, or they are so ravaged by baby rabies they will desperately go for anyone. They are not really considering if the person they choose is a good long-time partner for them. They seem very willing to play a role just to get into a relationship. That cannot last long-term, I think. It seems to me there is a high risk of a string of relationships that are doomed to begin with, because one party is desperate and I am broken. Dating strangers and random hookups doesn't really appeal to me. Also, how long would it take me to find someone that understands me as well as my wife? She is the only person in my entire life that I felt she actually really gets me, and it took a long time to get to that point. Isn't that something I could use in my own healing? Would I ever be able to find someone again that could do that? How long would that take? There is no guarantee that a new partner wouldn't cheat as well. Given the circumstances, I actually think that the odds of my wife cheating again are lower than a new partner. My son also needs his mother, and she needs to heal before she can step back into that role. Will she heal faster and better if I divorce her? Or will she heal better if we try to reconcile? I don't know. It's driving me nuts. How can I know she is safe to be around for my son if I'm not there with them? When it comes to my own healing, would I be better off alone or with her? Based upon what I have learnt here, it seems those that choose that jump to divorce don't heal very well. It looks like the best outcome as far as healing is concerned is when the wayward actively contributes to the healing over a 3 to 5 year time period minimum. I don't know if she is even capable of that at the moment, TBH. So here I am. I am terribly conflicted. I have a million questions in my head and basically zero answers. I still struggle with the two extremes, reconciliation or divorce, and everything in between. I can't deny that I still love my wife. It turns out my bond to her isn't that easily broken. I really don't want to love her. The prideful side of me wants me to hate her. But I just can't lie to myself. I still love her deeply. And even though I fantasized about her getting hurt as badly as me the first few weeks, I don't want to hurt her or anyone. It wouldn't help me at all. Either way, I see long, painful road ahead of us. I hope I have the strength to stay the course and be patient enough to make sure I make the right choices for my family and me. The only thing I have been able to decide is that if I land on offering R, it will not just be given, I will need to see some effort. I will not offer R until I am absolutely sure we are two people 100% committed to that path. Also, if we do R, she will basically be a prisoner on probation. I don't want to be that guy, but what choice do I have? If I feel I can trust her, either way we will need a lot of therapy. Maybe she doesn't even want to R. I just don't know. Not being able to talk to her is starting to become a real burden for me. It's stressing me out. I feel I really need to talk to her. If anyone has any good suggestions for these conversations, I am all ears. Again, thank you all. When cheating is not cheating. I wanted to post my story here because this sub is filled with poor souls who have experienced the worst of the worst of the worst. I was one of you once. I walked in on my first X-balls deep in another woman on my bed once. But this cheating story I want to share is different. I want to give the other end of the cheating spectrum and why you're always valid for leaving over any level of infidelity. I'm 2 for 2 on cheating husbands, but this time the pain is in my hands and on my terms. My ex was raised by a single mom. His dad left his mother with 3 young boys to pursue a younger woman and new family, and my ex always said he would never cheat because of how it destroyed his mother. I believed him. When we first met, he confessed he's been sexually active with over 500 women. I believed him. But this was a red flag to me. When I asked, why me out of 500, he always told me, I'm marriage material, mother material, that I love him for him, unlike those other women who only cared about dick and money. I shouldn't have quieted that place in my mind that said red flag, but I did. But aside from that, he was perfect. Until he wasn't. I found flirty messages on his phone to 4 different girls. The girls weren't even flirting back, just being friendly. But his messages made him seem like a single man out to get laid. No insinuations of an affair were made, and I highly doubt he physically cheated. But the act of seeking out other women for romance? I couldn't suffer it. I confronted him calmly and ended it right there. In his defense, he's playing the role of the perfect remorseful gentleman. He hasn't blamed me, lied, gaslighted, or diminished my feelings. He immediately fessed up to the flirting and did everything right. He told me there's just too much temptation out there and he was only seeking validation due to low self-esteem, and it isn't my fault. But it isn't enough. And that's okay. He told me, I'll spend the rest of my life proving myself to you. You're perfect and I'll never stop working to deserve you. I'll go to therapy. I'll give you my phone. I'll delete social media, etc. But what about me? What about my life with you? Am I to spend the only life I've got with a man I'll never trust? If you have to spend a lifetime trusting someone, what is the point? The foundation is shattered. And if I am so perfect, then why wasn't I enough in the first place for you? I won't be with a man who has to completely delete social media just to behave. I won't build the foundation of a family with a man who is made of sand. And I'm not jealous. I don't care about him talking to women, but I care when he disrespects our relationship to seek out romantic extracurriculars. He would never tolerate me texting another man, "Hey there, sexy. So why so I?" So I left. I left my marriage over flirty Instagram messages because I won't spend my life looking over my shoulder. I would rather be alone than miserable. And for people who still enjoy the high of flirting with strangers, just because you don't fuck doesn't mean it isn't cheating. Flirting busts holes in foundations, and those foundations are a hell of a lot harder to repair than they are to build. So do yourself a favor and don't get in a relationship if you still desire this kind of narcissistic validation. It's okay if you're single, but not if you're taken. And if you've ever been told that leaving over harmless texts is just throwing a relationship away, do yourself a favor as well and find someone worth building a future with. That's all. And to my ex-husband, one day when your beautiful blue eyes are covered in cataracts and your muscles turn to flab and your thick dark hair starts to thin and fall out, I hope you're happy. Because the high of sexting pretty girls and having them respond will fade quickly. One day, if you don't change, you're going to look around and find an empty household. Money, attractiveness, material possessions. It never mattered, love. I hope you learn that lesson before it's too late. I would have been there, and I think you know it. But I will never be a doormat. Best of luck in your Tinder endeavors. I am many things, but I am not one of 500. Great marriage until my wife dies, realized infidelity after she died, swept it under the rug for the kids' sake, now it's back to haunt me. My SO, an extrovert, and I, an introvert, started dating in our mid-20s. We both had our fill of one-night stands and cheating partners. 3 years later, we were married. We were best friends that had a lot of fun and couldn't keep our hands off each other, DNA left in 4 countries and half the states. On my SO's 34th birthday, I gave her a ring box with a note asking if she would quit her birth control so we could have a baby together. She jumped into my arms and kissed me until I lost my balance and fell to the floor. The happiest I'd ever seen her. She took me into the bedroom, past the bed, into the bathroom where we flushed her remaining pills. Over the next 5 years, we lost 3 pregnancies. This hurt us both deeply. We talked and decided to adopt. The process is long, but in our early 40s, we watched our daughter, M, be born. The sparkle was back in her eye. The next 8 years were wonderful. My SO was the kindest, most empathetic mother I'd ever seen. All of our friends told me how lucky I was. At 50, my SO asked me to get a vasectomy to lessen the chance of another unwanted pregnancy. I had a bad case of the flu the week of my snip, and I had to cancel. My SO got the same flu from me the next week. She wouldn't let me take her to the hospital, but I finally took her to the emergency room where she had a stroke that lapsed into a coma. 6 horrible days later, she passed away. Both Em and myself were devastated. It took almost a year before she would sleep in her own bed. She said she was afraid I'd leave too. Soon I received 2 credit card statements in her name. We always had common finances. The balance for both cards was just shy of $14,000, mostly in cash advances. I sent for all of the back statements. This got me thinking about the last year. Sex life went from normal down to once every week or two to me giving and not getting head, but no penetration. She also had a few new foreplay tricks she'd never used before. We also went from talking over everything at dinner to barely talking by the end of the year. Then to the point, she would avoid talking to me at all. All we had was a landline with 2 phones. She would get mysterious late calls, and the caller ID register was always cleared, completely not normal. She went from a girls' night every week or two to girls' night twice a week by the end of the year. Her dress for girls' night also went from jeans and a sweater to being dolled up by the end of the year. She would even get her hair done sometimes. Then I got total confirmation of her affair in the mail again. I was blissfully ignorant and enjoyed the one-on-one time with Em's playtime, bath time, chasing her, until she would go to bed, then story time, and kiss her on the forehead goodnight. After a couple years of grieving and obsessing, my company offered me a job far away, and I jumped at it. I pretty much just swept everything under the rug, and we left. Fast forward 10 years, and I start having these very vivid dreams that I remembered for days. My SO would be dressed beautifully, dancing and kissing her AP. They would go to their room, strip in front of me and throw their clothes on me like I was a cuck, then screw in front of me and laugh at my misery. I finally went to an IC who told me that I never got closure on my SO's affair. I-64 just retired and M22 wants to move back to our hometown. I am hesitant because I still don't know who the AP is, and I don't want to be nice to the SOB that screwed my wife. I would be surprised if AP was outside our circle of friends. I also don't want M looking up to someone who screwed her mother. Should I ask SO's best friend who AP is? She would know. Should I dig all this back up? I'm obsessing again. I thought all of this was behind me. Please let me know. Update. Sorry I couldn't figure out how to link. Go to my posts. It's the only other post there. I want to thank all of you that commented on my original post. I tried to read digest and return your comments. It really gave me something to think about, and I appreciate it, even the asshole commenters. After my post, I started taking my prescribed sleep aids. I've had 8 really good nights of sleep without a dream about my SO. I'm feeling better already. I talked to my SO's BFF yesterday. She was happy to see me, and we went over to her sister's for Memorial Day BBQ. We went back to her place and spent some time catching up. Then I asked her if she knew who my SO was having an affair with before she passed. She was stunned and surprised when I told her. I think it took her completely by surprise. She said, "Oh God, no, all she ever wanted was to have a family." She reminded me that was the year of her divorce, and rather than being less than a mile away from our house, she was now 20 miles away. They didn't see each other near as often as they used to. I don't know if it was a comment on my post or another post I read, but the commenter mentioned that when caught, the WW would say she was lonely, because I wouldn't talk to her, even though it was her that stopped talking. So may have actually been lonely with her manufactured cold shoulder to me and her BFF moving away. Another commenter said that So felt guilty and couldn't look me in the eye. So was one to carry her guilt around like a ball and chain. I had my list of 9 possibilities, and without showing her my list, I asked BFF who she would put on her list of APs. The first name she said was number 2 on my list, quickly to number 1. The next 2 I had thought of but left off my list after I told her my reasons. She agreed, not on the list. The 4th guy she mentioned was number 1 on my list, number 2. She had 2 more and we agreed that it wouldn't be them either. Then I went through the rest of my list, and after discussion, we and I shot down most of them, but agreed that number 8 on my list was a possibility. Also, we both agreed that SO would have to know someone to have an affair. She wasn't one to be picked up randomly. When we were done, she asked me if I noticed anything about the 3 guys. She said that they all had the same personality. They would talk only when talked to, funny, intelligent, caring, helpful, and somewhat of a perfectionist by nature. She said they were all like me, which is obviously my SO's type. That floored me. Why would she look for another me if she already had me? Were we projecting? Was she looking for that spark we had when we first met? I always left work at work. I tried to take care of M when I came home from work so she could relax. Did I not give her enough attention? I always hugged and kissed my SO in front of M. When M was young, she sometimes got a little jealous, and it was cute. Later on, when we hugged and kissed, M would hop up and down and squeal until I swept her up, and I would hug and kiss her between us while she giggled in delight. After we get moved and settled in, I plan on taking M to town for a weekend and dropping her with her friends while I go see number 1, number 2, and number 8. Hopefully, I will get the answer I want and be able to leave this nonsense alone for good. If he accuses you of cheating, let me paint the picture. My husband and I have been together for 19 years. He was my very first boyfriend at 18 years old, and we lost our virginity to each other. We were inseparable and a model of love and a healthy relationship to our friends. About 5 years ago, I gave birth to our son after years of infertility. It was truly a miracle. This is when things got difficult. My husband was now the breadwinner as I began my new role as a mom. When my son was a year old, I experienced a miscarriage. This was right after I stopped breastfeeding and my hormones were a wreck and depression was really sinking in. My husband felt I was pulling away from him and started investigating. For the next 3 years, he accused me of cheating on him with all our guy friends. Then he thought I had a boyfriend. His thoughts morphed into thinking I was a prostitute, entertaining men during nap time. He set up hidden cameras and recording devices around the house to catch me. I felt so much pity for my husband. I encouraged him to go to therapy because his ability to thinking rationally seemed compromised. We tried couples counseling, but the accusations continued. The emotional abuse continued. Intimacy was strained because he was looking at me like a slut, but felt like I had to please him to help him feel better. Last year I listened to my gut and I did not sleep with him for about a month. My depression was at its worst, and I was starting Lexapro. At a small get-together with friends, my husband went on a walk with my best friend, the wife of his best friend. They have an open relationship, and it was overheard that she was telling my husband that humans are not meant to be monogamous. I noticed her touching his knee too comfortably, and I felt like vomiting. They planned a game night, and my husband planned to spend the night. Since the game was so long and boring, I wasn't invited. I am not stupid. My husband was too excited about this night and had really been looking forward to it. Right before he left, I asked him not to sleep with her. He seemed shocked and flabbergasted that I would even mention something so wild. I told him if I didn't say it, I would regret it later. Even while I was showing apprehension, he still left. He returned the next day, and after being awkward for hours, he finally told me what happened. This almost 40-year-old tells me he hooked up with her, using such casual language when up to this point we had only ever had sex with each other. I have since moved out, but he is determined to win me back. I am not sure I could endure more of this toxic relationship. The next chapter is very scary. I have never dated another person in my life, but even being alone has to be better than this kind of emotional abuse. My parents want me to work it out with him. My friends are supportive of me and happy I've finally left. Healing can be lonely and scary, but I am hoping for a better future for me and my son. Caught my girlfriend cheating this week. Hindsight is always 20/20, but truthfully, I saw all the red flags along the way and checked them off like they were goals. I always gave her the benefit of the doubt, even when I knew I shouldn't. She's 19 and I'm 21 for reference. First major red flag. Her ex lived with her and her family, though ironically he's moving out as I type this. I believed for the longest time that they didn't care for each other because her mom catfished her ex and got his nudes. That's messed up in its own right. But there were always red flags along the way. Some big ones were how she'd get him to rub her feet or her back, or how I saw her kiss his hand once in the beginning. Whenever I called her out on these things, she'd always go into hysterics and beg me not to leave, talking about how sorry she is, it won't happen again, I'm the love of her life, blah, blah, blah. After everything she did to hurt my trust, she tells me I can go through her phone whenever I want, because she has nothing to hide. I don't really believe in going through your SO's phone. I always thought it was toxic as hell. Well, the other night, I get on her phone to stop her Chromecast, and it opens to a page of recently installed apps. In this list of apps, I see one of those texting apps that generates you a fake number to text call from. She downloaded this app because last time I tried to leave her, I blocked her on everything and her family too. It was her only way to text me. Well, guess who she's texted? Her ex. The latest text being from right before we laid in bed that night. Good night, I love you. There's text telling him to be quiet when he gets in her car because she has me on the phone. Text going on about how much she wants him there. Text begging him not to say anything about her texting him. I'm shaking at this point. Not heartbroken, not angry, just absolutely done. I wake her up, hey babe, what the fuck is this? She just feigned ignorance, unconvincingly saying, what the fuck? I don't know. Then she just repeated, wait. Over and over and over. Honestly, it was a dead giveaway. Eventually, she claims it was her mom texting her ex because her mom didn't believe that her ex really didn't care for her anymore, and because her mom had catfished him before. Even though the whole car text message would make no sense then. Her mom eventually says that she was the one who texted her ex, not my girlfriend. Though her grandma told me that her mom was lying to protect my girlfriend. And now I have to spend 2 8-hour car rides with them and their 3 dogs and 3 days in a shitty hotel with them. Can't wait. Once I'm home, I'm leaving her for good. I caught my wife cheating with a good friend. This was one of the worst days of my life. I made a throwaway account since this is embarrassing to talk about. I have a job that requires me to travel from time to time, and I was supposed to be out of town for the weekend. There was an important conference I needed to be at in another city hours away. It was Friday night, and I drove to the airport to catch my flight. After waiting there for a couple hours, I got a text from my boss saying he's feeling under the weather and is going to cancel the meeting. This already had me very upset. I wasted my entire day, plus I missed my chance to network with important people. I drove home and noticed my friend's car was parked in the driveway. This was not expected at all, so I simply thought he was in the neighborhood and decided to stop by. I've known this guy for 12 years, since high school, so I couldn't imagine him betraying me. I looked around the first floor and I didn't see anyone, so I went upstairs. I heard some talking in the master bedroom and peered in. I was in horror when I saw one of my best friends in the middle of sex with my wife. They were both completely naked, and I could see how hung this guy is. His penis was long and weighty, so much bigger than mine. I confronted them right away and kicked out my friend. I was at a loss for words, and my wife kept apologizing. I couldn't understand why she did this, or if this was even her first time cheating. She admitted that our sex life has been bad, and she wanted to get with other men. At this point, our marriage was over, and I filed for a divorce in the next few days. It's been 4 months since this happened, and I slipped into a real depression. Why did she feel like the sex was bad? My dick is only a hair below average at 5.25 inches, so I didn't think I had any problems. I've been with 10 other girls and nobody complained. Usually when I'm having sex, they seem to enjoy it. Is it possible she's lying? I can't figure out the truth, and it's wrecking my self-image. I haven't talked to my friend since this happened, and I'm so pissed off that he stabbed me in the back for no reason. I don't know what to do to get out of this slump I'm in. Found out my boyfriend is actually married with 2 kids. I met a guy in the Navy a year ago who was an absolute sweetheart. Treated me better than anyone had before, brought me flowers, all that cute shit everyone wants. I went to visit him over the weekend. We had a great time. And today, 2 days after I got home, I got this lovely message request on Facebook. Hello, I believe you and I have someone in common, and this person has probably told you a story like, I'm a crazy ex out for revenge, or some type warning to not communicate with me because I say this because it's not the first time. Which is why I'm contacting you like this, to avoid you being influenced by seeing my profile and ignore me. I'm not crazy, just passionate about not getting lied, tricked, or cheated on. I noticed your interactions with Name here on Facebook to my surprise since he told he deactivated his act. I also seen your texts and pics from this weekend, and I thought you should know he and I are not only in a relationship, we live together, we're married. I called him immediately, he told me to text him, I asked him who the girl was, and he told me not to respond, and he'll call me when he gets out of work. I'm well aware he is going to just try to spin it into exactly what she said, that she's just crazy and I should ignore her. I believe everything she said. Of course I answered her, and we've been comparing stories and she's confirmed a lot of things I've been suspicious of. I'm just not sure how to cope, feel, handle this. I feel awful and like a fucking idiot. I should have seen the signs, and I didn't because I liked him so much. Obviously, I will be cutting contact. Anyone else ever found out their SO was actually married? How'd you deal with it? Update. I've been in contact with the wife all day, telling her everything and comparing stories, information. He did call me, where he tried to somehow twist this into my fault, saying his marriage is none of my business, to which I told him to go catch an STD and have a great life. He tried to call me an hour or two later to apologize, and I told him to fuck off. I am done with him. There was never a question about that, but I am still thoroughly upset, LMAO. Found out ex who cheated died. Last night. I got an email from my ex-GF's mom this afternoon letting me know her daughter had passed away last night. I responded back that I was shocked and that I hoped she and the family were holding up okay. Her mom loved me to death and always wanted to see us back together. But there are many things in this world worth fighting for. A cheater is not one of those things. I last spoke to my ex a little over a year ago when I made the mistake of answering a number I didn't recognize. She heard about my new career and said she was happy for me. When I told her I'd been forced to move to the place in the US she always wanted to live but never could, it got to her. She said she thought about me all the time and missed me so much. She pleaded for a second chance when she knew all too well I don't give second chances. She apologized over and over for cheating. I told her she was forgiven. I'm glad I did that now especially, but I'm also glad I wasn't even tempted to allow her back into my life. We had some really fun times together. I did love her, and I know despite what she did love me. But I require loyalty, and there is no bigger betrayal than cheating. I had enough self-respect and the knowledge that taking her back would make her lose all respect for me. Kicking her to the curb forever was what she respected, but didn't want me to do. I am sad, and I'm not certain why, honestly. She wasn't and never would again a part of my life. She cheated when I was at my absolute lowest. But I am sad her days have come to an end, and those that will miss her have to deal with that sadness. That chapter of my life was already closed. Now it's closed forever, far and beyond the realm of second chances. Adieu, Alt. Edit. It was not suicide. I caught my boyfriend cheating on me with my best friend during her birthday. I, 23F, met my boyfriend, 24 ma'am, 2 years ago, and we have been dating for 1 year. Until now, our relationship has been healthy, but it wasn't until recently I have noticed a slight difference in my boyfriend. He had been acting more protective of his stuff, like asking me why I was using his phone to search something. I didn't really mind, but it did make me slightly suspicious. My best friend, 23F, of 4 years, had her birthday recently and invited me, my boyfriend, and 5 other friends to go out to a carnival since she wanted to do something a little different. We all arrived there at 10 a.m. and had a great time. After being at the carnival for 5 hours, we were preparing to leave to go to a restaurant when my best friend had to go to the bathroom, and my other friends decided to get some snacks or go on one more ride. Me and my boyfriend were together waiting to get some cotton candy when he said that he was going to get some chips from another stall. I didn't mind, and he left. After a couple minutes, I got the cotton candy, so I decided to go to the food stall. He said he was going too, but he wasn't there. I was walking around a bit to see if I could find him, and walked by 3 photo booths that showed the people inside on a little screen outside of the photo booth taking their photos when I noticed familiar faces. It took me a few seconds, but then I realized my boyfriend and best friend were having a full-on makeout session in there. I felt absolutely shocked and betrayed by them. I broke into slight tears, but I immediately decided I wasn't going to let them get away with this, so I recorded them as evidence while crying, and went to the bathroom after recording them and cried for what felt like hours. They made me feel so stupid and naive. But after around 10 minutes, I calmed myself down and headed back to the place where most of the food stalls were. 2 minutes later, my boyfriend comes with a smile on his face and the chips and said that there was a long line. I did my best to smile back and act okay. Then me and my friends went to the restaurant and ordered our food. I felt so broken inside and hated pretending like everything was fine and like nothing had happened between them. After 3 hours, everyone left and went home. Now I want to gather more evidence of my boyfriend and best friend cheating, and I want to find out a way, confront them the best way possible. If anyone has any ideas, please let me know, and I will update soon. Update. It has been over a day, and after reading comments, I decided to send to video to friends and family, including my now ex-boyfriend and ex-best friend's family. I explained to all of them me and my boyfriend are broken up because of obvious reasons. His family and hers have allergized to me, and most of our friends have taken my side and blocked him and her. I have blocked them both on all social medias and their numbers and emails, so they cannot contact me. My favorite part about this is that he lives in my apartment because him and his family aren't on good terms. While I sent the video to everyone, he was also at his friend's house. Yes, I know he was at my ex-best friend's house, and he came back after getting my message breaking up with him to see his stuff and outside of the apartment. Thank you for the advice, everyone. Wife cheated with coworker. My wife, 42, and I, am 44, have been married for 19 years. We have been together for 25 years. We have 3 great kids under the age of 14. In 2015, she lost her mother to cancer, and in 2016, her father to cancer. This sends her into a deep depression. For the following 2 years, I took care of the kids while she worked. Dead bedroom starts during this time. Nothing makes her happy. Now, because she doesn't talk to me, I start playing video games when the kids go to bed. After 2 years, she starts coming out of her depression. She talks more and wants to do stuff with the family. We start being physical again. This went on for a year, then I lost my father. This sent me into a depression because we were very close. Like my wife, I closed myself off to her. I started playing video games more and I ignored my wife. I never stopped saying I love you or giving hugs or take her out. We start sleeping in different rooms because our son had a medical condition where we had to keep eye on him at night. So I slept in his room. I moved my Xbox in there and played video games for a couple of hours till I fell asleep. Then COVID happens. My kid's school goes remote and my wife started working from home. My wife's job required her to start looking for supplies to reopen her business when the restriction stops. She starts working closely with another member of her company. After a few months, she starts being distant and stops communicating with me. I try to keep telling her I love her and buying small gifts to show my love and appreciation. We decided that 2021 school we would keep our kids at home to remote learn because our son had a serious medical condition. I was so busy with kids' school I really didn't notice the distance getting worse until much later. Dead bedroom starts again. Then in the summer, our 2021, I start to work for Lyft because we needed extra money. I worked on the days she works from home so she could be close to our son's school. In the fall of 2021, I picked up this lady from the airport and drive her to her hotel downtown. During this ride, she talks to her female friend on the phone about her meeting her AP to have sex because they are both in town for business. She said her husband at home with kids and is playing video game. They haven't had sex in over a year. He is too busy to know she cheating. I start thinking this sounds like us. So I started being more affectionate and more loving. I'm already a loving and affectionate person. Nothing distance is getting worse. I write a letter telling her I love her and I know there is distance between us. I want to work it out, but she has to willing to work on us. She said she will try to be better. For the next year, she shows hardly any affection and doesn't want sex because her depression pills given her no sex drive. We barely hold hands, don't say she loves me unless I say it first. When we are in the car together, she sleeps, so she doesn't talk. D-Day was May 4th of this year. My wife went into the office, I went to work, and I was texting her during the day, no response. Then she finally called me, and I tell her I have been texting her all day. She tells me she never got my text because of the signal in her office. She has Google Chat, so I will message her there. It will show up on her work computer. No responses. She gets home, and after we put the kids to sleep, she takes a shower. This is where I finally broke down and checked her phone. Now May 4th is a big Star Wars day. May the 4th be with you. So I check her texts from me. It true, she didn't get them until she left the office. I check Google Chat. This is where I found her cheating. She woke up this day and messaged him on Google Chat all the May the 4th gifts. I am a Star Wars fan also. Did I get one? Absolutely not. So I checked all their messages, and the affair has been going on for almost 3 years. There was tons of I miss you and I love you. I feel so stupid. I am completely devastated. This guy's moved to Kansas in 2020, but comes into office 1 week a month since he works remote the other weeks. I guess when they would have Zoom meetings with each other to get their business open, he began to flirt. In the past, guys would flirt with her, she would shot them down. This guy's wasn't as handsome as me. I'm not 10, I have a little dad bod. Maybe I'm a 6'7", he was a 4. She began to flirt back then, they would go to lunch together. Then the lunches turned to going to his hotel room for lunchtime sex and tell me she had work late to have more sex. I even saw a text to her friend saying the sex wasn't better, she just craves the attention. So I shot everything to myself. I didn't say anything. I was having surgery in the summer and needed her help. After surgery, we had decided to move closer to family. She barely helped me look for houses. I checked her phone again in October. I guess the relationship came to an end in June before my surgery. He was mad that she was taking time to care of me and the kids. I was wondering why she became more affectionate and loving and wanting to have sexy time with me after I healed. Last week we got a huge argument because she started being distant and wasn't communicating again. So I yelled and told her I knew she cheated with a coworker. She denied and said I was overreacting. Then I shoved the evidence in her face. Then she stops yelling and putting me down and started crying. I just left and went to my sister's house. I came back home to be with the kids for Christmas. Then I will leave again. I told her I am filing for divorce after the new year. She cried and asked who will drive her to work and pick her up, who will help her with the kids. I told her to ask AP. Then she starts crying more, saying we can work it out, do marriage counseling. I will seek full custody when I file the divorce paperwork, also alimony and child support. 25 years I feel is wasted. Sister will screw the family up. Hear me out. My sister, 35F, and her husband, 37M, has had their up and downs. They were high school sweethearts but separated for a while before getting back together in their late 20s. 3 kids late, and having moved back in the state we live in, we see them a lot more often than we used to. And so does the family. Our family is very close with our aunt's family. We grew up with them, and I consider them sisters more than I consider them cousins. One of them, let's name her Mary, is married to Mark. Mark is extremely jealous and manipulative. They have 5 kids. That being said, she loves him dearly. Back to the sister. I asked to borrow her phone to call my boyfriend, but when I did, I noticed that her and Mark were texting. He was telling her he was on his way to see her. It's not the first time I see their texts. This has been going on for months. They talk all day and the texts get inappropriate. She got drunk last weekend and was crying over a guy she's in love with but can't or shouldn't be in love with. I have a very strong feeling it's Mark. I went to a party yesterday where Mark showed up alone, and I had to leave him with my sister to go tend to my kids. My sister is and has been unfaithful for years with a lot of man and woman. Her husband is aware but got his things on the side also. That's a story for another day. But my sister, she is not to be trusted. Would you talk to your cousin about it? knowing it will most likely lead to nothing except drama between your family? I talked to my mother about it, and she's also confused about what to do. I don't want my cousin to know I knew something was up, but I also don't want to screw my relationship with my sister. Any thoughts? Update. A while ago, I, 30F, posted about how my sister, 34F, was having an affair with my cousin's husband, Mark. I debated long and hard about talking to my cousin about it, and after much consideration, and against my husband's advice, I decided to tell my cousin about it. She is one of my closest friend, and almost all of my childhood memories includes her. She's family, and family don't screw with family. Off curse, things blew up. The next day, my sister asked me if I had said anything to my cousin as a revenge. Not knowing what she meant, I asked why I would want revenge in the first place. She said I may have seen the conversation she's been having with my husband and got mad. Wait, what? First of all, my husband, 37M, and I have been together for 14 years. He has cheated on me and held inappropriate conversations with girls before, and we separated in 2020. We got back together in 2021 and decided to make it work for our 3 kids. I was completely unaware that he was talking to her. Apparently, she's been talking to him about her affair with the cousin's husband. I can't know if it's the truth because he deleted all the text. She says he told her to delete everything while he says she told him to delete everything. Either way, they've been talking behind my back for months. He usually texts her first, and from the screenshot I've seen it's mostly innocent, but at least twice a week, he messages her to see how she's doing and to talk about their day and their life. He promised me last Wednesday he would never talk to her again and delete the texts. Then he texted her Thursday, first thing, when he got to his work, to see how she was feeling. He said he didn't, and that I needed psychiatric help because I didn't believe him, but he knew details I had not told him. So I asked my sister to tell me the truth, or they would both loose me. A few moments later, my sister told me the truth. Again, everything has been deleted. I'm mad at both at this point and unsure what to think. Like WTF. Brother cheated on wife of 2 years, ran off with side piece. My brother is making all the wrong decisions. He married a nice young girl from India who didn't want to stay in the US, and now she is stuck here in the States away from everyone she knows because of the lockdown. She found out her husband, my brother, has been cheating with a coworker through looking at my brother's text messages when he wasn't looking. When the wife comforted the side piece, the other woman was proud to have done what she did. Husband then runs off after being confronted about the cheating. Now, he blocked my family from his social media and has now even removed wife's photos from said social media accounts for every extended family member to see that something is up. To top it all off, in these 2 years, my brother has been domestically and psychologically abusing his wife. I tried to encourage a separation, but she claimed it will all go away eventually. It died down. Yeah, but I'm not sure of all the stories and hearsay. After the first incident, I lost every ounce of respect I had for him. Now, he's sunk lower than a hole. I am purely ashamed of him, but I'm even more or as pissed off of the side piece for lusting after a married man and convincing my brother to cut off his friends and his family who have been trying to get him psychological help. Oh boy. This drama is still developing as my brother is living with the other women, and since he decided to cut off his wife, he is now financially unstable, because wife was the moneymaker of the two. He mocked off of the wife's money, she bought everything he has. From what I hear, the other girl isn't exactly living in luxury. Is he truly in love? I do not know or care. He is dead to me. I'm helping the wife find a new apartment and helping her deal with paperwork. She will have a better life without the scumbag. Side note, I stole my brother's true love, his gaming system. He has to see me in order to get it back. Caught wife cheating days ago. 3 days ago, I, M38, caught my wife, W40, cheating. The affair happened from the start of last year until last month. So according to her and the evidence I found, they had sex 5 times. But there was a whole sexting relationship happening almost the whole time. There were so many pictures, videos she sent of herself to this man in compromising positions. I looked at them and thought, who is this woman? I saw the pictures and videos she sent, but she didn't know. She initially lied about the whole thing, said I was crazy to think something happened when I confronted her. She didn't fess up until I actually proved it. She lied about the timeline and frequency of events. It went from one fling in Jan 2022 to the latest sexual encounter in mid-September, 1 month ago. Also, there is no evidence to think it would have stopped if I hadn't caught her, even though she says it was the last time. What's worse, the guy she cheated on is a close family friend on her family's side, so everyone knows and loves him. I don't even know if other people know about the affair and just aren't saying anything. If it gets out, I'll look like a fool and a cuck for staying, and who knows if the guy will take it to the grave. Lastly, while snooping, I also found illicit texts with an ex-boyfriend from 2018 while we were on vacation. Also in 2018, I found extremely flirtatious, but not sexual chats at 10:20 at night with a church pastor. She said no sex happened with either. I can't prove otherwise. It's crazy, I really had no idea whom I was married to. Hubby slept with every woman except me. My soon-to-be ex-husband was a very attractive man, and I felt like the luckiest woman alive on our first date. When we married, we agreed that I would be making most of the money and doing most of the housework while he cooked me dinner and completed his bachelor's degree. At least that was the plan. He flunked class after class because he refused to do the work and skipped class in favor of playing video games and complaining about how depressed he was. Pre-marriage, he was charming and attentive during our dates. Post-marriage, he was off in his own world, and getting him to agree to date night was like pulling teeth. The sex became infrequent after the honeymoon and stopped altogether after a year and a half. You see, he liked chubby girls, and at 120 pounds, I literally wasn't enough for him. My weight, or lack thereof, hadn't been a problem for the sex we had before marriage, but after marriage, suddenly the pressure was on for me to gain weight. For every woman entering a marriage hoping to change her man into something he's not there, is a man doing the same to his new wife. I could not discuss this with my female friends. There are no words in our society to describe a woman trapped in a sexless marriage. I was probably the only late 20-something woman in my entire state who had to beg her husband for sex. So from the beginning, my marriage was plagued by a problem that had no name. I had always thought, perhaps naively, that marriage was supposed to resolve sexual tension, not create it. I did not get married to never have sex again. The homemade dinners dropped from every day to once a week because he was depressed. He also stopped accompanying me to family and social events. Again, I did not get married to show up alone to events, but I was patient. I convinced myself that his mental illness was the problem, not our marriage. I hid any pills that might be dangerous when he talked about committing suicide. I came home from work each day praying I would not find my husband dead. When he said he was going to walk out our front door and not stop until he died, I blocked the door with my body and called 911. I ended up canceling the 911 call after I got him to promise me he would not hurt himself while I was at work. My handle on this forum comes from the fact that our life together was like a soap opera, an endless emotional roller coaster. I never knew if he was going to ask me for cuddles or yell at me. I walked on eggshells. One time I was washing dishes, minding my own business, and he burst into the kitchen yelling, "I'm going to become an astronaut, and if you don't support my dream, I'm cutting you out of my life." He was 28 and still didn't have his bachelor's degree, so I was pretty sure being an astronaut was not in his future. But after that outburst, I didn't say anything. I finally convinced him to seek professional help. The worst behaviors were no longer present, but we never did regain the connection we had before we were married. At that point, I did not feel like a wife, but like a mother to a moody teenager. His mood swings went beyond just normal bipolar disorder. He didn't want a wife, he wanted a mother substitute without the parental authority. The fact that his own mother left him with relatives in a foreign country at the age of 14 might have had something to do with it. The end of my marriage did not come when I discovered the sexually explicit texts to one of his community college students. He had by this point found work as a part-time tutor. It did not come when, A few months later, he announced his intention to leave me for yet another woman who, ironically, turned him down once he was free. No, my marriage ended the moment when I heard him come in the front door and thought, "Oh, Clearp, he's home." That moment came long before I had any inkling of his affairs. In a way, it was a relief to discover the texts because it gave me an excuse for divorce. I had grown up in a traditional household where divorce was very much frowned upon, so much so that I forgave him and resolved to work on our marriage after I confronted him about the texts. Ultimately, he left me for the other woman. So there it is. I supported this man financially and emotionally for years, only to have him turn on me when he thought the grass was greener on the other side. He even asked me to buy him a flat-screen TV as a parting gift before you could say, "Gold digger." I told him my parting gift to him was not emulating Lorena Bobbitt after I found out about the cheating. He also asked me if I would mind vacating the condo, whose bills I paid solely out of my own money whenever he wanted romantic evenings with his mistress. I told him to boil his head, take a long walk off a short pier, and then go himself. Some people's heads are so far up their own asses. Slowly, my self-respect was returning. I never realized how much I gave in to him and how much of myself I had lost in the process until I had nothing more to lose. Owing to some unusual legal circumstances, he got our home, but it was 100% worth it to be free again. My traditional upbringing failed me utterly. When this COVID-19 business is over, I intend to stick to escorts. At least they will actually do the job they are being paid to do, not expect me to wait on them hand and foot after putting in a full day's work, and be honest about the fact that they are seeing other women. Best of all, they will have no power to strip me of my home and half my assets. My ex-girlfriend and my brother. My ex-girlfriend was everything to me. She was the reason I came out earlier than I wanted to. She encouraged me to be myself and helped me understand that there was nothing wrong with me. Before my ex-girlfriend, I was socially awkward. I was always in isolation because I didn't know how to associate with crowd. I would go to classes and sit at the back and alone. She walked in one afternoon, and that's how everything about me changed. I started brushing my hair and tried on makeups. She was gorgeous and laughed really hard. We became friends after she insisted I tell her my name. We hit it off. Our first kiss was in a forest where we went to take nature pictures for our collage project. It was my first kiss. We dated for about 7 months, and I felt it was time I told my family everything, including how I'm a lesbian. Everyone took it really well except my brother. It bothered me because we were really close, and it was important to me that I have his love and support. I decided to put hold of the relationship and work on getting my brother back. It went on for about a month. My ex-girlfriend offered to talk to him. I let her. It wasn't long after that she started behaving a certain way towards me. I tried my best to get her to open up. She kept saying she needs to think about the relationship. Later that week, my cousin told me she saw them taking pictures by the beach, and it looked weird because they seemed really close. I told her it was nothing, because she's a lesbian. Turned out she had started sleeping with my brother, and they managed to hit it so well I was shattered. Every single thing in my life fell apart. I instantly went back to my shadowed, isolated, and socially incapable self. It's been 5 years, and I haven't recovered from that experience. My brother and I don't talk anymore. I ignored my ex as much as I can till we left school. I'm still broken and hurt. It still hurts. It's affected everyone and everything around me. Should I tell her? My mom, 33, is bisexual but leans more towards women. She's dating this amazing, nice, sincere woman, 32. All right. So I'm legit typing this as I hear this. So my mom invited a friend over, and I had already been a bit suspicious. She made me clean my room and other things, but I had a feeling something like this was going to happen, so I had stayed away from this friend. But I walked in there and spoke with them and my younger sister. My mom asked me to stay and talk to her friend. I noticed her friend was complimenting me a lot. A bit suspicious. Okay. So fast forward, I showered and joined them again. At this time, it's like 1 a.m. We're all talking. And then I leave the room. My mom hands me $20. So I return to my room. She then shut her door. Okay, 2 a.m. I hear loud moaning. I am completely horrified. I just shook my head. I realized that the money she gave me was hush money. I know what cheating does to people. I was cheated on and haven't returned to myself since. So I'm so shocked that my own flesh and blood would do this. Not to mention that her partner is extremely sensitive. She only went away for a day. She's supposed to be coming back in the morning. So if my mom gets caught and gets us murdered, then Chile. Literal tears are pouring from my eyes. I am heartbroken, and I can hear them laughing and talking. It's disgusting. I hate cheaters. My mom was even planning on marrying her partner and knowing that she'd pull something like this. My ex, who cheated on me with her trainer, just reached out after a year of silence. Now her life is falling apart, and she wants me back. Hey everyone, I-28M. Just had a weird situation pop up, and I honestly don't know how to process it. Maybe getting it off my chest will help. Names are fake, obviously. A little over a year ago, I was in a serious 3-year relationship with Megan, 27F. Everything seemed great between us, at least from my perspective. We were talking about moving in together, and even had casual talks about marriage someday. Around that time, I started getting into fitness and introduced Megan to my personal trainer, Jake, 30NM. Jake was a super charismatic guy, and he and Megan hit it off, but I didn't think much of it, just assumed they had a good trainer-client relationship. After a few months of them working together, Megan started acting more distant. She'd be busy after her workouts, not come home until late, and her phone would suddenly always be on Do Not Disturb. I'd ask her about it, but she'd blow me off, saying I was being paranoid. Well, turns out I wasn't paranoid. One night, Megan left her phone on the counter while she was showering, and it lit up with texts from Jake. Let's just say they weren't talking about meal plans or workout routines. I confronted her immediately, and she broke down, admitted she'd been cheating with him for months. She told me she fell in love with Jake and that it wasn't about me. It was just something she couldn't help. She packed her things and moved in with him within a week. That was the worst time of my life. It felt like my entire world had been ripped apart. I blocked her on everything and focused on picking up the pieces of my life: therapy, gym, hanging with friends. I slowly started to move on, even though it left a deep scar. Then, out of the blue, a few days ago, she reached out to me on a new number. At first, I wasn't going to reply, but curiosity got the better of me. She started off saying she missed me, that she's sorry for everything, and that she's made a huge mistake. Apparently, things with Jake went downhill fast. She found out he was cheating on her. Oh, the irony. They've broken up, and now she's stuck, lonely, and miserable. She even admitted she's been thinking about me for months but was too ashamed to reach out sooner. She said she realizes what she had with me was real and that she wants to make things right. She claimed she's willing to do anything to prove she's changed and asked if we could meet up to talk. Here's the thing, Reddit. Part of me still has some feelings for her, but another part of me is screaming to block her again and never look back. I don't know if I can ever trust her after what she did, but hearing her sound so broken on the phone stirred something up in me. Maybe it's pity, maybe it's nostalgia, or maybe I'm just an idiot. So here I am, trying to figure out if I should hear her out or tell her to stay in the past where she belongs. What would you guys do? Update. Hey everyone, I wasn't planning on doing an update, but after meeting up with my ex, I feel like I need to get this off my chest. If you didn't read my first post, the quick version is, my ex, Megan, 27F, cheated on me a year ago with her trainer, Jake, and left me for him. Now she's back, saying things went south with him, and she wants to get back together. So we met up yesterday for coffee. I went in not really knowing what to expect. Part of me wanted closure, part of me was still curious about what she had to say. We talked for a good couple of hours, and it was a lot to process. Megan started by apologizing. She admitted that leaving me for Jake was the biggest mistake of her life, and she's been paying for it ever since. Without getting into too many details, things between them weren't as perfect as she thought they'd be, and the whole relationship basically crashed and burned. She's been struggling ever since, mentally, emotionally, financially. It's been a rough year for her. But here's the part that I wasn't really prepared for. She also brought up a lot of things about our relationship that I never considered. She said that while cheating on me was 100% wrong, she felt like I wasn't the best boyfriend either. According to her, I didn't always make her feel appreciated, and she resented me for that. She mentioned that I was emotionally distant at times, more focused on my work or hobbies, and she felt like she wasn't a priority. She didn't use it as an excuse, but she said that built-up resentment contributed to her being tempted by someone who made her feel wanted. Hearing that hit hard. I didn't see myself that way, but looking back, I can see where I might have dropped the ball. I thought I was being a good partner, but maybe I was blind to some of her needs. She said she spent a lot of time reflecting and realizes she should have talked to me about her feelings instead of stepping out. After we finished talking, she asked if we could try again. She claims she's learned from her mistakes and wants to rebuild what we had. She told me she's willing to take things slow and prove she's different now, but I'm torn. On one hand, I've done a lot of healing in the past year and I don't know if I can or should go back. On the other hand, I can't lie. Hearing her admit her mistakes and explain her side of things made me feel something. Maybe it's closure, maybe it's sympathy, maybe it's old feelings creeping back. I honestly don't know. Now I'm just confused. Part of me wants to move on and never look back, but another part of me is questioning whether we both made mistakes that could be fixed now that we've grown. I can't tell if she's just trying to ease her guilt or if there's a real chance at something better. What would you guys do? Is there any point in trying to rebuild, or is it better to leave the past where it belongs? Final update. Hey everyone, I wanted to give you all a final update because things have taken a turn that I didn't expect. After my last post, where I told you about Megan reaching out and us having that long conversation, I spent a lot of time thinking about everything. I took a few days to reflect and really tried to figure out what I wanted, what was best for me. Megan continued texting me, trying to keep the conversation going, and she seemed sincere. I could tell she was struggling, and part of me felt bad for her. But every time I thought about giving her another chance, I couldn't shake the memory of how shattered I was when I found out she cheated. That trust was broken, and even though she apologized, I realized that trust might never fully come back. I was leaning towards moving on, but what really sealed it for me was something I didn't expect at all. Just a couple of days ago, I got a message from a mutual friend of Megan's and mine. Apparently, Megan had a bit of a breakdown after our meetup. She went back to Jake, trying to make things work with him again, but it turns out Jake had been cheating on her the whole time, pretty much from the moment they got together. The situation escalated, and from what I've heard, it ended with a pretty bad confrontation between Megan and Jake, leading to some serious legal trouble for both of them. Without going into too much detail, Megan's life has basically imploded. She lost her job, she's facing legal issues, and her mental health is in a really dark place right now. I won't lie, hearing all of that was a gut punch. It's hard to hear about someone you once loved going through so much pain, but at the same time, it felt like the universe was sending me a message. I realized that Megan wasn't coming back to me because she loved me or truly wanted to fix things. She was desperate and didn't know where else to turn. I would have been her safety net, not her true choice. So I made my decision. I've cut off all contact with her. I wished her well, but I told her that we both need to move on. It's the best thing for both of us. As for me, I've been doing great. Since Megan and I broke up, I've been focusing on myself, my career, and building new connections. I'm in a good place now, mentally and emotionally, and I've recently started using the dating apps. LOL, not the greatest, but much better than what was. For the first time in a long time, I feel truly like I can be happy again. Thank for all comments, both good and bad and useful and useless. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that sometimes the past is best left in the past. People can grow and change, but that doesn't always mean they're meant to be part of your future. Thanks to everyone who gave me advice and support throughout this. It's been a wild ride, but I'm finally at peace. Stay strong, everyone. You deserve better than settling for someone who didn't see your worth the first time around. My dad cheated on my mom when I was 8 and I was involved. My father comes from a pretty well-off family in a small town. He himself isn't rich, but his family is. He started seeing this sex worker after his brother introduced them. She lived in a shady part of town, and she had a kid. My dad would go to her house almost every night and claimed he had to work late. Apparently, he was also taking money from the family business to finance his mistress. It went too far when he took me with him so I could play with the sex worker's son. He was apparently my brother, but I highly doubt it looking back. He wanted me to distract him so they can have the small house all to themselves. He even made me call the mistress a certain variety of mom, and being 8, I just went along with it. It was apparently our secret, and gave me a lot of cool stuff every time I came with him. Well, my mom eventually found out, and it was chaotic to say the least. Apparently, a lot of people in the family knew about it, including my grandma, who just pretty much enabled it. My mom was extra heartbroken, 'cause not only was my dad cheating, he also brought me along to play house with his mistress. My mom obviously left him then and there and went back to her hometown with me. About a year later, my parents tried reconciling, but get this. This time, my mom was the other woman. My dad pretty much moved on quick with a different woman this time, and we're already living together. My mom pretty much ended it for good, and they've never spoken since, and I'm already 24. In the end, it worked out great for everyone. My mom is much happier here with her family, and so am I, to be honest. A few years ago, I started reconnecting with my father's side, but to be honest, I'm just doing it 'cause they're rich. So, yeah. I guess what I want to say here is that staying together for the kids is a horrible idea. Growing up with a happy single parent is so much better than growing up with two that are unhappy with each other. My wife confessed 4 weeks after giving birth that she cheated on me 3 months into our marriage. So my wife confessed to cheating on me, and I don't know what to do. She confessed to me that roughly 2 to 3 months after we got married, she cheated on me with one of her exes. She says it was only hand stuff, but how can I believe that? She tells me this just 4 weeks after giving birth to our first child, and I'm torn. On top of that, the timeline has me concerned if this kid is even mine. I've ordered a paternity test without her knowing. It comes in tomorrow, but I'm truly scared, and I currently want to try and work on things only for our child. If we didn't have him, I would end it right away. I am severely depressed from this and hate myself because I still love her, but equally hate her at the same time. I keep trying to mask my depression and act like I'm okay, but I'm not. I've done everything for this woman. I've pushed myself in my career to make enough for her dream to be a stay-at-home mom. We're planning on relocating across the country to be closer to some of her family. I've bought her a car. I never buy myself anything and give her anything she wants, Jitsu asks for, and this is how she repays me? Does anyone who's been through something like this have any thoughts, opinions? I'm slowly starting to consider a divorce, but the court will likely give her majority custody because she's his mom, but she currently has no job and will have to live with her parents, which just overall wouldn't be best for our kid. My thought is, he would be best with both of us in the house, even if it means I have to suffer for 18 years until he can move out on his own. Thoughts? Edit. It's only been a few minutes, but thank you to everyone who has posted their thoughts and opinions. It helps me more than you know. I haven't been able to talk to anyone about this and have been feeling so alone. A little more information. I'm only 25. She's 24. I know I have a long life ahead to recover from this. It's just so hard to see that far. I want to be happy. I just don't see how no matter what option I choose. She also has threatened to unalive herself if I were to leave her, which scares me to death in so many different ways. Wife cheated while I am deployed. I learned back in April that my wife of 5 years, 30F, was having an affair with a guy she worked with. We have a daughter who is 2. Together we had built a comfortable life together. Previous to this, we had been going through a rough patch, but I thought it would be something we would work through. I am currently deployed, which makes dealing with this issue more challenging to navigate. After getting caught, she apologized, but I didn't buy it and felt I was only being given lip service. We agreed there was no coming back from this, and truly I went from being madly in love with this woman to the sound of her voice, and seeing her makes me see red anymore. She expressed multiple times that she hates me and wants to be with the affair partner and wants to be divorced immediately. She has this guy over at my house most days of the week late at night, and she brings him around my daughter too, just to spite me because she says, I can do what I want and you can't control me. She has also given this individual the garage code to come and go freely from my home. She has played the victim card in all this and truly believes the lies she's telling. I want so bad every day to post this to social media and destroy her and her image, since she's always cared so much about public perception of her. When she went to her attorney, she drafted divorce documents stating, I would walk away from our home and only get my vehicle and personal belongings. We agreed to 50-50 custody for our daughter, but the papers stated I would only get her every other weekend and wouldn't get overnights with my daughter until she was 5. I shortly after came back telling her that I want my daughter 182 days out of the year, and if she wants the house, she will have to buy me out, or we will sell it. She has said that she will not willingly give me that much time with my daughter because she thinks I don't deserve it, and she won't agree to terms for the house either. She said we will settle in court. After informing her of the financial commitment that will entail, not to mention the long time frame, it only fell on deaf ears. I don't want to waste money that could better serve myself or my daughter, not to mention I don't wish to waste so much time. In all of this, her family is unaware of her behavior. Any advice on how to persuade her to settle now out of court? Should I maintain the moral high road? Should I lift the veil of all this to family, friends, and anyone else? Edit. I'm in the Missouri Army National Guard. I'm an E5 sergeant. The only reason I mentioned taking the moral high road is because she's already being difficult, and I don't get to talk to my daughter but once a day for maybe 15 to 30 minutes. Just worried she would make it harder, if not impossible, to speak with my daughter. Legally, she can't, but people break the law every day. The loan for the house is in her name since when we purchased the property. Her credit was just slightly better than my own. The deed, though, is in both of our names. We have already split bank accounts, so our finances are separate. I send her enough money to make our mortgage payment since I receive BAH, money for utilities, and money to support my daughter. Everything else is being put away for the legal battle that will ensue upon my return. I have every intention on fighting for my child tooth and nail and won't settle for anything less than 50-50 custody or 182 days a year with her. She is a federal employee for the Federal Bureau of Prisons. This guy was an employee there, but has since quit and is currently in the police academy. I learned of the affair because AP's wife tracked him to my house. I have since received pictures, screenshots of messages and videos as evidence of this affair. I also have on video admissions of guilt to confirm this as well. Not to forget, my neighbor across the street has been keeping an eye on my house and has shared videos of AP coming and going freely through my garage. Edit. Update. After finally having put up with enough of the disrespect and being treated so poorly on every front, I created a group text with her parents and spelled out everything that has been happening to include the sharing of pictures captured by AP wife when she caught my wife and AP at my house. After I sent that text to her parents, what do you know? No response. I guess you can say that silence is consent. I'll share the exact texts that happened in the last few days between her and I. I am removing names but no other content. Her. I know that things have been hard for us for quite some time now, but I also know that it doesn't give me an excuse to do what I did. I am truly sorry for that. I am sorry that I hurt you in a way that will probably never be repaired in your eyes. I'm not asking you to forgive me because I know that you have every right to hold a grudge. With that being said, I want us to get back to a healthy place where we can discuss, child, and a parenting plan for when you get back. I understand if you don't want to do that and want to go ahead with court to determine a patenting plan. I am just trying to do what is right for child, so let me know. I do not want to fight. Her following up the next day. Let me know if you want to schedule a time to talk about child. Me. I prefer to correspond about matters such as child or the way ahead via text. As far as your text from last night, I'm still thinking it over and getting my thoughts in order before I give a response. Her. That's fine, I understand. We can talk through text. Take your time if that's what you need. I won't rush you. My response a week later: I don't wish to fight and would like to move forward, but I won't compromise on what I expect as far as acceptable terms for the way ahead. If these terms can be agreed on, I'm more than okay with settling out of court and having my attorney draft the documents. My terms and expectations are as follows: 50-50 joint physical and joint legal custody of child, 182 days a year with child to include overnight visits. All major decisions concerning child have to be agreed upon: school, medical, activities, etc. Being bought out of the house or selling the property. No child support by either party to be paid or received. No alimony or maintenance by either party to be paid or received. Each party retains their own current bank accounts and funds. Each party retains their own retirement and investment accounts and funds. I want the exercise bike. I want the engagement / wedding ring set back. If you can agree on these terms, I am willing to settle out of court and move into discussion of a parenting plan. Her: Well, I was thinking more of a progressive parenting plan for child. She's only 2 and is very dependent on me. She hasn't seen you in a year and will be very uncomfortable leaving me and going with you. And even before you left, she was very attached to me, so what I was suggesting is the first year do 80-20, then the next year 70-30, and work our way to 50-50. That way she is more comfortable, and that gives you more time to get settled. All of the major decisions would still be decided by both of us. I don't care about anything else in your agreement. That's not what I'm worried about. Me: I'm not at all willing to do anything less than 50-50. Regardless of your personal opinion or feelings, I'm entitled to equal time spent with her. Her: I know, but I'm asking you to put aside your pride and do what's best for child. Me: I'm not playing this game with you. What I'm asking is not unreasonable, nor is it selfish or prideful. I'm going to email my attorney and tell them to go ahead with filing for a court date. Her: Okay, I'll see you in court. Was cheated on while shopping for a wedding ring. Me, 22M, and my GF, 21F, cheated on me while I was shopping for a ring. Background: me and my GF have been together for around 4 years. I thought she loved me as much as I loved her, and worked so hard to be able to afford a beautiful ring despite me shitty job. We were also looking for an apartment to start living together, and with my salary, it is tight. Last week I was really thinking about our future and decided to start looking for a ring. I couldn't afford something too expensive, but I was using some of my bank money. I found the perfect ring that I know she would love that fits my budget. The store that sold the ring at was quite far, so I was planning on going next Sunday, but now I'm not sure of what to do. A few days ago I went to my GF's house to find my GF on the couch with some random guy. After he left, I asked her who that man was, and she said he was just a friend. I was suspicious, so kept an eye out. 2 days ago I went there again to give her dinner. I walked in the door to my GF hooking up with the random guy who I didn't even know his name. I freaked out and demanded him to leave. I went ballistic and she had no explanation. I stormed off. These past 2 days I have only gotten texts from her family with apologies. She at least sends me 20 messages a day apologizing. What should I do? Easter throwaway husband. I, 28M, found evidence my wife, 27F, was having an affair on Easter Sunday. The next day I confronted her with irrefutable evidence. I left and have not spoken to her, nor do I plan to. We are divorcing. But I feel like even that is a pointless gesture, as utterly destroyed as I am. My wife and I had what I thought was the perfect relationship. We were best friends and seemed to benefit each other in a multitude of ways. We grew up together and dated our last 2 years of high school all the way through college. Physically, we were each other's first everything of a sexual nature. We attended the same university in different fields of study and married 2 years after graduation. We moved to a major city near our hometown to be near our families. I got a job as an engineer making a very decent salary with benefits. She got a job teaching at a high-profile private school which she loved. Together we made great money, so we always spent so much time together. We traveled, we dined out frequently, and every night felt like a date night. Even among a group of friends, there was always the two of us together. We were so stupidly happy, they could have put our goofy love grins as the sample photo in picture frames for sale. Our sex life was great and had always been. Less than 4 times a week was considered a dry spell for us. We had a great life in general. Well, at least that's what I thought. I thought we have had a great life together, but I've come to realize all of that was a lie. We were planning to try and have children soon. This totally blindsided me. I cannot stop crying. I wanted to be a father someday. Now that's an impossibility. Easter morning at the break of dawn. We were supposed to help at our church hiding Easter eggs on the property for kids to find later. We got up and threw on some clothes without showering before driving to the church together. We groggily helped hide obvious eggs for the small children and more secretive eggs for the older kids later that day. My wife took many pictures on her phone of us, as well as many members of the congregation. We all ended up having coffee and donuts while conversing before heading home. I'd driven to the church, but I got my wife to drive us home. She commented she was going back to bed for a few hours when we got back. I wanted to preview the college basketball championship game the next night because my father was a Baylor graduate. We'd brought my wife's iPad along, which I used all the time like it was my very own. I never expected to see anything, and she didn't anticipate it showing me anything. I'm not very tech-savvy, so I still don't know what happened exactly. But I was reading an article as we were walking into the house. In the lower right corner, an icon appeared that said something about photos. Then picture after picture appeared one atop the other. I don't know if my wife's phone was syncing to the iPad or our Wi-Fi. Again, I'm at a loss. I saw the pictures were the ones my wife had just taken minutes before outside the church, so I continued reading. Suddenly, a few pictures flashed by that looked like they contained nudity, which was very out of character for my wife. I tried tapping on the pictures to go back, but it was like the photos weren't on the iPad, it just showed each one to me for a split second. I opened the photo file on the iPad, but nothing remotely pornographic was stored on the iPad that I could find. I realized none of the photos taken at the church were on the iPad, yet I'd seen them flash by. My wife went into the kitchen and got a bottle of water to take with her as she headed back to bed. I watched her walk up the stairs, and for the first time in the history of our relationship, I felt like she might be hiding something from me. I searched every file I could find on the iPad, hoping I could find what I'd seen. But I eventually realized to ease my mind, I'd have to check my wife's phone. I walked upstairs and found her sleeping soundly in our bed. I grabbed her phone off of the charger and took it into our bathroom. We'd never had an open or closed phone policy. We just used each other's devices at will with nothing to hide. So, discovering her passcode had been changed made my heart nearly stop. I tried it again and again at different speeds. No doubt it had been changed. My eyes welled up with tears just knowing my wife was probably hiding something from me. It was a sign that there was something unknown to me that I truly needed to know. I walked back in the bedroom and placed her phone back in the charger. Part of me wanted to believe I was crazy or that I just thought I saw something risque, but my mind was playing tricks on me. I had actually imagined discovering what I saw was nothing carnal and laughing about what I thought it actually was. But the passcode got me. I tried acting as normally as possible. She knew me better than anyone, so keeping all emotions welled up while at the same time being sneaky was difficult. But late that afternoon when she was in the kitchen, I heard her text alert. I popped around the corner just in time to see her enter a brand new code, so I knew I wasn't losing my mind completely. Later that night, after she'd gone to bed, I again took her phone into the bathroom. I entered the new code and opened her photos file. To my surprise, nothing close to a photo containing nudity was anywhere to be found. I even found the photos she'd taken at the church that morning. Nothing pornographic was among them. I was just about to close the app when I decided to look for deleted photos. To my surprise, I found 2 photos of my wife nude and partially nude, along with a naked shot of some guy other than me. I quickly sent all 3 pics to my own phone, then deleted that text as well as the photos. I placed my wife's phone back in the holder, walked to the downstairs restroom to make less noise, and vomited like I'd been given ipecac. I'd never seen either picture of my wife before. She didn't do that sort of thing, and I didn't really desire it. I could always have her to myself soon enough given the next opportunity, and I already knew how beautiful she was naked. We just felt like photos like that could always come back to haunt people. She and I were too united as one. We had no need to share our intimacy with the world. Or so I thought. I sure didn't know who the guy was in the picture. I looked at it and felt anger even having no idea who he was or if my wife knew him in any way. After I stopped hurling my guts up, I laid in the floor and cried like a little child. I had never cried harder in my life, but I just knew something was wrong. I could feel it. I got a few hours of sleep next to my wife before I had to get up to go to work. Every project I was working on got put on hold as I researched how to recover texts from a phone. As it turns out, since the plan we had was in my name through my employer, I could access every message and pic sent via text. Long story short, I recovered raunchy messages, selfies, and yes, even pics and video together. All there. I could say I went and vomited again, but it was dry heaving. I'd gotten rid of the last thing I could throw up at 2 a.m. I went down to my car and cried so hard I thought my eyes would bleed. I couldn't imagine the nightmare I was living was real. But I knew instantly everything with my wife, my best friend, was over, and every dream I had was gone. I yelled primal screams of rage. I was thankful she wasn't there at my moment of discovery. I didn't know what I was capable of, and I didn't want her to see me like that. I couldn't think what to do, where to go, who to call. I was just in shock, and the person I would have turned to at a time like that was the very person who had destroyed me. I stopped crying and just sat there in a complete daze, unsure what to do, but certain I didn't want to do anything. I knew what had started off as an unproductive morning was certain to be an unproductive day. I went back inside, met with each team member on the company project we were doing, then left work. I didn't even want to look at my wife, so I certainly wasn't going to go by her school to confront her. I just drove around for hours in shock. I went from tears to rage and back again. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. I thought of emailing her and both our families all the information I'd found, and then driving my car off a ravine. I truly didn't want to continue living, and I certainly didn't want to deal with the confrontation to end our marriage once and for all. My wife usually got home a few hours from work before I did, so I parked down the street from her school to see where she went when she got off from work. I had it in my mind from what I'd found she'd probably head to her lover's house for a quickie after work. But she left and went straight home, oblivious I was following her most of the way. I'd printed out pages and pages of texts and pictures at work to show her what I knew. I anticipated confronting her and her denying anything until I showed her proof leading to much conversation and fighting. I didn't want that. I didn't want to ever lay eyes on her again, talk to her, or be in her presence ever again. Those pictures in particular ended all love I ever had for her in an instant. In fact, in the course of a day, I went from loving her more than I knew it possible for a human to love to hating her with every fiber of my being. How she could do to me what she did was mind-boggling. We were done the second she cheated. I was just the last to get the memo. My mind was all over the place. I just wanted to go into the house, pack a bag, and leave without seeing her or saying a word if possible. When I walked in the front door, she was sitting on the couch, texting. She may have been texting her mom, her sister, most anyone, but I knew she wasn't texting me. And that day I'd learned the odds were high she was busy doing more things that could cause me more pain. She smiled and noted that I was home from work early. I didn't say a word to her. I just walked down the hall into our bedroom. I got a suitcase out of the closet and began packing clothes for the work week for my stay in a hotel room. She came into the bedroom, saw me packing, and asked if I had to go on a sudden business trip. I stopped what I was doing, looked directly at her with a stare of absolute loathing, then continued packing. She walked up to me, asked me what was wrong, and placed her hand on my back. I recoiled from her touch like I'd just had some dead animal carcass filled with maggots touch me. I turned and yelled at her loudly to never touch me again before pushing her away. When she tried to ask what was wrong, I called her a disease-filled whore that deserved to have a fiery hot poker inserted into her privates to keep her from procreating. She had the audacity to look shocked and hurt. That's when I pulled out the stack of papers I'd copied, threw them onto the bed, closed my suitcase, and began to leave. She sat down to look at the papers. Before I got down the hall, I heard her scream no before breaking down in tears and running to catch me. I made it out the door to my car and threw my suitcase in the back. She managed to make it outside before I pulled off. I extended my middle finger in her direction as I drove away. My phone started going off like a casino slot machine, so I just turned it off. My plan was to completely ghost her and let whatever steps needed to be done for divorce taken care of by my lawyer. I didn't want to know how they met, why it happened, and what exactly had occurred between them. She knew damn well infidelity was a deal breaker. Why she was even calling, I had no idea, but didn't care. I got a motel room about a mile from my job and checked in. I walked to an adjacent restaurant and forced down some food I didn't want to eat. Back in the room, I used the motel phone to call my mom and tell her where I was. She'd been worried, as she'd been one of the first people my wife had called after I left. I asked my mom if she'd been told why I left, and she admitted she hadn't. I told her what I'd found, explained we would be divorcing, and I'd be looking for a job in another state, so I never had to run into my STBXW or any of her family again. I asked her to keep what she knew between her, my dad, and siblings. My mom cried. I mean, I wasn't there to see it, but it sounded like ugly crying and disbelief. But the realization my wife and her family were no longer any part of our lives hurt. I'm sure knowing she'd never hold a grandchild fathered by me hurt a lot too. But she knew how I was raised, so she also knew I was done. I was exhausted after the call with my mom. So, I cried myself to sleep, only to be awakened by a knock at the door around midnight. I got up and looked out the peephole to see my STBXW anxiously waiting for me to open the door. I couldn't grasp how she'd found me, much the less figured out what room I was in. But I did not want to see her or hear her voice. After what she did to me, she lost any right to even look in my general direction. So again, I used the motel phone. But instead of calling my mom, I called the local police. I stayed on the line explaining the situation as they sent 2 officers. I watched as the police removed my STBXW from in front of the door and led her over to the squad car. Then one officer knocked on the door, and I let him into the room. He assured me they wouldn't let my wife in and asked how I wanted them to proceed. I explained I wanted her to leave me alone and I wanted absolutely no contact with her ever again. He and I filled out all the necessary paperwork for a restraining order. He made sure the RO was what I wanted, since it would limit me from being able to go back to my house on my own to get things without police escort. I told him I never wanted to enter that house again. I was done with her and she could have it and the rest of our belongings. He got her to sign the RO. I watched her and the cops drive away, then went back to bed for a few hours. I made it to work the next day. Everyone asked how I was feeling since they all thought I left due to being ill. I told them I still felt a bit under the weather and told them I'd be working in my office all day just in case what I had was contagious. I called my boss and asked him for a good time to meet in my office. 15 minutes later, he was sitting across from me. I'm sure he was there to get an update on the project my team was working on. When I explained the previous day I'd discovered my wife had been cheating, he seemed almost as shocked as I was. I didn't begin to mention I'd soon be looking for another job out of state. But I did convey there was no chance of reconciliation, and as far as I was concerned, my wife was dead to me. It was all I could do to maintain composure and not cry. But I explained to my boss that I planned to dive into my work to distract me from my personal life. I explained at that moment I need the actual work far more than I needed the paycheck which came with it. He assured me I could work as much as I wanted and even crash in my office when needed. I thanked him for his kindness before asking him to keep everything between us until word leaked out. After work that day, I went by my parents' house for dinner. They had all my siblings and their spouses over as well. My parents called me aside as dinner was ending and suggested I let everyone there know what had happened and was about to happen. There were still a few people eating when I began to talk, but the news sort of ruined everyone's appetites. They all were as shocked and enraged as I had been. 2 of my siblings had gotten calls from my ex when I left and had felt sorry for her. Both wished they'd known what was going down so they could have given her a piece of their minds. I assured them and the rest of my family I just wanted my wife, and anyone related to her ignored, blocked from contact, and ostracized. I explained it wasn't her family's fault that my wife is a worthless whore, and my wife had proved she was unworthy of any attention, positive or negative, sent her way. I then explained I would be looking for a new job in another state over the coming weeks. Some family members were angered. They weren't mad at me for feeling that is what I needed to do. They were mad my wife sinned, and I was being punished by being removed from those that love and care about me. It didn't seem even remotely fair, I agreed. But the chances of getting every human related to her to leave the state out of shame wasn't happening. The next day, I met with my lawyer for the first time. We live in an at-fault state, so the stack of papers proving infidelity was a welcome sight to her. I tried to approach that meeting with 100% logic and no emotion. All emotions are temporary, and letting your emotions lead you through life is a recipe for utter chaos. I explained she and her staff would need to be the go-between for my wife and I until the divorce was finalized. I also explained there was a restraining order in place. I told her I didn't care about any of our possessions. Everything we owned reminded me of my STBXW, so I didn't want a single item or the house we lived in. The only thing I was concerned with was that she could not touch my 401k or other investments given to me before marriage. That's when my lawyer asked if I wanted the divorce to be a fair and equal divorce, or scorched earth. I looked down and thought for a few moments. The emotional turmoil I was enduring had reached the point it was causing actual physical pain. I knew the events I was living through had changed everything forever, and there was no going back. A week before, if I'd been presented with a fair or no holes-barred option, I would have gone with the fair route. But I felt nothing but loathing and disgust for the woman who lied to me nearly my whole life and betrayed me like no one else had. I instructed my lawyer to take every available avenue to make the divorce as painful as possible. Any item my lawyer managed to get from my STBXW for me would just go into a big bonfire after everything was finalized, but at that moment I envisioned that bonfire being so large and bright it could be seen from space. I wanted her to go after my wife financially, and if they could figure out who the AP was, to go after him as well. My state has alienation of affection laws, which allows a person to sue someone who contributed to the end of a marriage in civil court. I told my lawyer if they discovered he is in a relationship to contact his partner. In short, I wanted to make everything hell on earth for them both. I wanted to convey to my wife I hated her beyond words, and I was out for blood. I wanted to destroy her life like she'd so casually destroyed mine and let the pieces fall where they may. My lawyer called me at work today to let me know my wife had been served at her job. She asked me to come by after work to talk with the messenger they'd sent to serve my wife papers. Just knowing she'd been served and was grasping I would never be any part of her life again was enough. But I decided to listen to the messenger in the sole hopes he might tell me my STBXW jumped out of a window after being served. He and I sat in an office without my lawyer present as he explained he'd taken the paperwork by the school at around 10:00 a.m. He checked in with the front office as a courier, and a member of the faculty led him to my wife's classroom. She was in the middle of a lesson as the employee opened the door. The courier said he walked past the staff member, asked my wife to verify her name, and told her she had now been served with official divorce papers due to infidelity. He said my STBXW was obviously shocked at the speed I was moving, embarrassed to be served at work in front of her students, and was fighting back tears. He told me as he walked out, she fell into the floor and began sobbing uncontrollably. That was all good to hear, and I was glad she'd gotten the paperwork. Honestly, I'm not even sure why I'm writing this out. It's been a bit cathartic, but I don't need advice. Well, at least I don't think so. As stated, I have everything planned out, and the divorce is in motion and will take place. I just hurt so bad, and I'm truly struggling to find a reason to carry on. I don't want to. I'm not suicidal. There is no part of me that wants to die. I want my life back, and that is an impossibility. There can be no new life in my future with someone else. She destroyed something pure and beautiful one can only attain once in a given lifetime. And despite her tears, she didn't even care. She took what we had and turned it to ashes with her infidelity. I'm struggling to envision my life totally alone until the day I die, and I don't want to go on. I hate myself for ever giving her a minute of my time, much the less years of my life. I feel like my entire life has been and will be a wasted life. Sure, I have a career and the capacity to move on, but doing it alone the rest of my days is just overwhelming me. I suppose I need to explain why I said I will never be a father and will be alone from here on out. But I was raised a certain way with a certain mindset. My wife was raised this way as well. It's one of the reasons we were so close. I guess in the end she didn't give a damn about her proper upbringing and decided to destroy us both in the process. I was raised to believe that humans were never meant to run around sowing oats and having meaningless tawdry sex with random hookups. I believe the most ideal relationship a human can achieve in this life is one where the two have only known each other. I understand in these modern times that point of view sounds archaic to most, if not all, but two people discovering intimacy together, every act of intimacy is a beautiful thing. Nobody has to worry about past partners. Nobody has to worry about diseases and pregnancy. Nobody has to worry they aren't doing something as well as a previous partner their SO had because there were no other partners. You learn together. You grow together. Instead of living a life that would remove any possibility of STDs, unwanted pregnancy, paternity fraud, etc., our world has made ways to correct those mistakes instead of having to face the consequences of foolish people. Two become one, and nothing can come between them. Or that's what I was led to believe. That is the way romantic relationships were meant to be, but humanity has run away from that mindset. That's what my wife claimed to believe to me more times than I could count. I couldn't begin to tell how many times my wife claimed to be grateful we lived our lives the way we did. She said she cherished the fact that we could know each other in a way few people can anymore. I guess that was all bullshit lies, but it doesn't even matter anymore. Because of that mindset, there can never be reconciliation, and there is no way I could ever view her as attractive after seeing what she was doing behind my back. 1,000 gallons of bleach and a pressure washer couldn't remove the diseased infidelity filth she subjected me to. I view her as defiled, diseased, and dirty. A week ago, I could just think about my wife and get aroused. Now she could lay before me naked and ready, and my reaction would be to spit on her in disgust before again vomiting. And as I have known someone else, I can never have that bond with another human. I couldn't date a virgin even if I wanted to because due to my relationship with my wife, I couldn't be what that hypothetical virgin deserves. I'm sure I will get some hate from various progressive readers who view sex as something to do with random people for fun and list sex as a hobby on their Facebook page. That's all fine and smurfy. Opinions differ, and I know my viewpoint is far from standard anymore. But one man and one woman is the way it has always been supposed to be. My wife turned out to be a lecherous Jezebel cum dumpster, so that's my loss and my own stupidity for choosing so poorly. I just don't think it's fair that I didn't commit the sin, but I'm the one who has to endure the hell of life the rest of my days totally alone. Edit. Those private messaging me with harsh messages about the words one man and one woman being homophobic. It was not meant that way. I meant it to mean two people, and regardless of gender, I do feel like two people in one lifelong bond is best, and I'm standing by that. But I'm not editing it after the fact now that it's been posted. So save your time messaging me trying to claim I am anti-gay. What any two people do in the privacy of their own company is their business, and certainly none of mine. I cannot stress enough, I don't care about anyone's sex life. Straight, gay, whatever. I don't care. It's a major reason I don't want to know any more specifics about my wife's affair. Edit 2, Luke 16:18. Anyone who divorces his wife and marries another woman commits adultery, and the man who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Edit 3, final edit. I'd been doing a good job focusing solely on work the last few days. I'd made massive amounts of progress on the company project since all my time had been spent in my office. It seemed stupid to pay for a motel bed when my office has a comfortable couch. I woke up this morning with every intention of getting further ahead on the project as well as begin my job search in other states. But when I sat down in my desk chair and saw the date on my computer, I had a realization that brought me to tears. Now I'm done. This is my wife's birthday. Obviously, I had zero plans to send her any well wishes, but it made me consider something I hadn't. That date will always belong to her, at least in my mind. It was bad enough thinking about upcoming holidays, making me flash back to happier times when I had someone. I think I could always ignore those days and just work, but today's date will always bring her to mind. No matter what I do or where I go, I cannot get away from that. Moving away and avoiding her doesn't really remove her from my life, because she was my life. I want to erase every memory of her in my mind. I want to forget I ever knew her. What were cherished memories just 1 week ago are now nothing but bitter memories of lies and deception. I can't endure that. I just can't. It's amazing how quickly life can just flip the script on you and destroy your entire world overnight. Obviously, from the comments I got, many loathe me, my views, my beliefs. I'm actually fine with that. I'm honestly not usually one to use language and terms I used in my post. I just felt her actions said much harsher things to me than any words I could say to my wife ever could. But when things end, they end. Much like life. Sure, I could seek out help to try and convince myself this all hasn't been as bad as it seemed. But my grandpa taught me not to blow smoke up anyone's ass, especially my own. So it's done, and so am I. This obviously isn't the time or manner I envisioned it ending, but sometimes this life can be too cruel to continue. God bless you, each and every one. May you know peace in this life. I would not wish love upon anyone, even my worst enemy.